Champions of Psychology is meant as education and entertainment. It is not a substitute for medical advice or professional counseling. Discussion of mental health topics will be primarily rooted in research and the personal experiences and self-disclosures of the hosts. While we can provide generalized education and possible mental health resources, we cannot offer any recommendations, advice, or opinions for any specific persons, cases, or situations. We provide these resources and links at our sole discretion, but have not necessarily vetted or reviewed any resource. We assume no liability for the use of the information or resources on these sites, and we encourage you to use your own best judgment.
Hey, this is what happens when you make a new layout for the day before and don't add the mic. Hi, welcome to Champion Psychology, a show with the goal of openly talking about mental health and gaming, presented by Codename Entertainment, TakeThis.org. I'm really mad. Actually, I'm going to stop here. I'm really mad because I had a freaking great read on this intro.
It was so good.
It was so good.
Legitimately so good.
It was so good. I'm so mad. But this every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here on twitch.tv/PsyD Games, Mitra Jordan and Raffael Boccamazzo, aka Dr. B, talk about mental health and how gaming affects us. If you're this live in the chat, you can leave a question that I, Treavor Bettis, will ask them later in the show. But before we go any further, we have a special guest, and it's our first special guest where we have everybody here.
The whole crew.
And our special guest is Tanya DePass. Hey, Tanya.
Hello. Hi, Trevor.
Hello. Who are you for the fine folks who may not know?
I'm your local internet ne'er-do-well masquerading as a good person on occasion. And there we go. I broke Raph in the first 5 seconds. I do a lot of TTRPG stuff, making my own game along with an amazing crew of people into the Motherlands. We've had 4 seasons on Twitch. The game will be out TBD because life happens and things go wrong. Rivals Waterdeep, which comes back Sunday, and that is all I'm doing in terms of RPG stuff right now.
You do so much.
I also am the chair for Take This as of January this year.
Woo!
So
my boss's boss's boss.
That would be
my
weird.
boss reports to the board who you run.
Well, that's weird. This is awkward. Goodbye.
Sorry, what I'm seeing here is multiple dual relationships, Tanya. It's been really nice knowing you.
I just got to make sure to be on good behavior because the boss's boss's boss is here.
Oh, please. It's like we don't all misbehave when we get together.
Oh my God, do we?
It's just great to have someone point out when we're muted. That is all I am saying.
What's really annoying is because I had the script up over it and I was reading it, I was like, man, I'm gonna be really annoyed if I'm muted right now.
Oh, well, such a shame.
Irony.
Such a shame.
Yeah. Mitra, Dr. B, who are you two for the fine folks who may not know?
Oh, he always makes me go first. Okay. So I'm a registered clinical counselor working in Victoria, British Columbia. I work with families, couples, individuals, and occasionally youth. We talk about everything. I hope they talk about everything. And often gaming comes into the conversation. So there you go. And I have a deep love of games. And yeah. Raphael, save me.
Well, I'm
Dr.
I am Dr. Raffael Boccamazzo, and definitely not 3 Trevors in trench coat. I am a clinical psychologist in Washington State. I am the clinical director at Take This, the oldest nonprofit to serve the game community, and I'm also an expert on the applied use of tabletop RPGs and other games in clinical and learning settings. And I'm so thrilled to be here because I have been lucky enough to know Tanya now for almost 7 years, and I love every time I get to hang out with Tanya. I love every time I get to talk to Tanya, because I always go away learning something, and also, yeah, shenanigans.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, today's topic is creator well-being, which, you know, we always, whenever we have a guest on, we like to have a topic that is in the wheelhouse that they want to talk about. And this was one that, I mean, I feel like everybody just kind of synced up on. So where do we want to start with creator well-being? What do we mean when we say creator well-being? How about that?
Well, I mean, a lot of our questions have come from the idea that creators are different than us, right? Creators and
No.
content creator. No, okay,
No.
they're actual human. Oh God, we're content creators. Oh God,
It's
Oh
terrifying.
no,
Yeah.
we've
this
been
is getting
found out.
meta. Well, yeah. So
I found me out. Go on.
the experiences of different content creators at different levels of their career as their scope expands, the stresses become different, and there's unexpected twists and turns in both how people have to take care of themselves as well as how the community interacts with them. And Tanya, Cypher of Tyr, is just a fabulous outspoken advocate for content creator wellness as well as community etiquette, because it turns out when you manage a community, the etiquette of that community is kind of an important factor.
Just a little bit. Just a little
A
bit.
wee bit.
But also, Tanya is a very outspoken advocate at the intersection of multiple marginalized identities, which also greatly impacts the content creation experience in so many ways. And so couldn't think of a better person to just have for this.
All right, time to go. You're being nice to me. Goodbye. Basically,
bomb.
smoke bomb.
It's like, I spent so long making this 4-person overlay. Okay, so then where do we want to start with that?
Well, Mitra, I know you had a lot of questions you had yesterday and a lot of things you wanted to bring up with Tanya.
Okay, great. It's interesting how I suddenly don't.
What? Me? I have to talk now?
I think where we landed on was when you there's such a link between a creator's well-being and the community that they're co-creating with the participants who are interested and their audience. And so it becomes unexpected, I think, to some creators, how much community management they end up doing. Like, they're putting their heart and their love into the world, coming up with something, and then boom, there's this community around them, and there's a relationship. And I don't think it's easy to see that that's kind of what happens when you first start. So I'm curious about that experience for you and how you coped with it and what you did to create boundaries that were healthy for you.
For me, I think the biggest step for me was realizing that building a community is a lot of work. It takes a lot of care. And unlike what a lot of creators seem to think is, I stream, I made a Discord, boom, I have a community. Actually, you don't. You have a space for people to congregate that may or may not like you on occasion. And they might or might not like each other. And you have to manage all of that. One thing that I learned quickly was to have either a code of conduct or not terms of service, because that sounds very corporate, but basically an expectation of, in this space, these are the things we will and won't do. And actually, we don't do that here. I got from Dr. B.
I thought I got that from you.
I don't know. We got it from each other.
I don't. I credit you with that.
It's a bootstrap paradox community trend.
Well, that's now a mechanic in a game somewhere in another world. But either way, it's, the idea of we don't do that here, of this is a space where we can talk, we can communicate, but also be respectful of other people. There are so many examples I brought up in our pre-show chat, but one thing is especially now, being cognizant of your socioeconomic status. Say, if someone is constantly buying like super expensive things, going on really expensive trips, and always talking about this, meanwhile, someone may be going, hey, I need help making rent, is being cognizant of those kind of things. And also just, this community, this Discord, this stream chat is not your personal one-on-one time with the streamer or content creator, that there are other people. You have to be mindful of other people, and also understand that if someone says, hey, that makes me uncomfortable, that's not funny, I don't like that, know enough to understand that person trusts you enough to bring it to you and to honor that. And the uncomfortable part that none of us like is knowing when to tell someone they need to leave and show them the door. So it's been a journey. This is my 9th year streaming on Twitch, probably 9th, 10th year being content creator. And it's a lot of work because you are a one-person production house unless you are very fortunate to be able to hire people.
Yeah. There was that post going around last week that was it was like content creators and just sort of like normal looking people as like their editors, and it was just completely tired people with Monster Energy drinks, and then people were responding with, that's both of me.
I was like, oh, that's cute. But Raph, you're gonna say something.
Well, it's you bring up something that I know you've touched on numerous panels we've been on together, and you've talked about on Twitter a lot. And there is this, especially as your channel grows, a lot of people start out with this idea of, I'm just playing games with friends. No, you're broadcasting. Mm-hmm. The instant you click on that, the instant you click that go live button, you're a broadcaster. And that often shifts as communities grow in size. But one of the things that also grows in size is the community expectations of the content creator and how it shifts to the point of even dehumanizing the creator, making them a brand.
Yep, you are a persona. You are no longer a person. All of you I've interacted with in various ways, and we see it all the time where people, and this is the one that really gets me, is people will at you on Twitter or something like that, and then they're surprised when you respond. It's like, but you tagged me. Or, the infamous shut up and dribble comments we've seen given to athletes and other people. I mean, we've all seen people in various industries. Well, I follow you for music. I follow you for this. Why are you being this way? Why are you trying to go woke? And it's like, because I'm a person that lives in the world. I don't know about you. I can't ignore these things. And I'm not going to ignore it in my stream because the things that happen in the world will affect me. But it's dehumanizing and it's demoralizing more than anything else. Because at a certain point you go, if this is all someone wants to treat me as, but if I were to treat my community as simply dollar signs, I would be the main character on stream or Twitter.
Yeah.
Well, and you also talk about the idea that the achievement of certain goals is seen by certain content creators as like, okay, I have a community now. But it's kind of like I do a lot of like early relationship work with teenagers and young adults, and very, very frequently they have a similar idea about dating. And then once they start dating someone, it's like, okay, now the real work begins of maintaining the relationship. And it sounds like that's what you're saying as well in terms of like community. Okay, you've got a community now the real work starts.
Oh yeah, a lot of people think that they can create a Discord, invite people in because they're subscribers, patrons, however their people are supporting them, but they don't realize people expect you to come in and interact. And same thing when I feel like we've all talked about this to a point where, let's say if Treavor started streaming, and this is a weird thing because I know Treavor. Let's say I didn't know Treavor at all, and I found your stream, whatever content you're doing, and you don't interact with your chat, you don't do anything, but then you go on a tirade about no one's subscribing, no one's giving bits, because you're not acting like we're people. So therefore, why should I then want to support you? Mm-hmm. And a lot of people do that. They talk to their chat as if they're there just to be piggy banks, and not people. And, so it kind of go, and I hate the phrase, but, we have people that do, the content creators there to entertain me, and it's like, dance for me. I'm going to throw pennies at you, or bits in this case, versus the creators that just look at their community as dollar signs. And there's also the feeding into the parasocial thing of, I love everyone. You're all my friends. No, you're not. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Everyone who comes in my chat is not my friend.
Mm-hmm.
We may eventually get to be friends. I've made some great friends through streaming, internationally in the US, but you being in my chat does not give you a free pass into my life outside of this stream.
Mm-hmm. Someone in the chat, ew, parasocial is icky.
or I'm going to make Ralph laugh at this, or as I call it, big ooh energy.
What?
Big
Big
ooh
ooh
energy.
energy. Like, oh my God. Hi guys. I love you so much. Is everyone okay? Oh my God. And we're just so happy to see you. We're absolutely not going to talk about politics or anything really mean. And by the way, leave your trauma at the door. We don't want that here. Only good vibes only.
Oh.
That's what I mean.
Oh, you really illustrated that beautifully.
That last one just
Yeah, no. Good vibes only is a expletive on this show.
Oh yeah.
I was at an event when I was in LA and saw someone with a good vibes only hat. It took all my willpower not to snatch it off his head.
Oh, LA, the land of good vibes only.
Well, it was at a content creator event, which made it even worse.
Oh God. We have done episodes on toxic positivity.
Yep.
Well,
God.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we had in our notes, though, about this was and I mean, I would definitely feel like this is getting into it, is the emotional labor of like there is a lot of it there, and yeah, like folks coming in and trauma dumping does add to it and whatnot. I think that is kind of an aspect that not a lot of people look at it if you haven't kind of looked at like streaming or doing that sort of thing, is that like, because a lot of people just come in, they're just like, you're just playing games, you're just having fun, and I don't know why they're John Travolta from
I was gonna say
Saturday
that Joe
Night Live,
Pesci or
whatever. But it's there is a lot of emotional labor in that.
There's emotional labor because people, when it's kind of like this, where people show up, the stream's running great. If there was anything that happened in the background, they would never know. And that's what you aim for as a streamer as well, is you show up, I give you a good show, you have fun, I have fun, till next time, in an ideal world. But as we all know, anyone who's ever streamed or done content creation, you can have mic issues, you can have your internet can cut out, last minute, or everything looked great until you went live and then you touched one button and now everything has blown up and or you update one small thing and everything has gone wrong. So your own tech support, your own marketing, your own hype person, your own social media manager, if you want to put out content that's not live, you have to learn to video edit but people think I'm going to sit here and play this game for 4 hours. And also, do you know how hard it is to be engaging, play a video game, be decent at it, and not die 20 times and not have all your clips be of you dying?
Yeah, it's hard work to make things engaging for a viewer. And I think part of the mental labor here is that you're not just enjoying something and doing it. You're always thinking about that external gaze. How is it being perceived? How are we doing? How is this going to land? And that adds so much more of an internal dialogue. And that's part of the social contract, if you will, between someone who's doing the streaming and the audience that they're thinking about, that the audience watching isn't necessarily thinking about. But it plays into the response that that we hope we get, and the boundaries that need to be put in place to keep this a safe space for everyone, which is a whole other thing that is going on.
And there's the whole part about safe space, because as we know, a lot of people mock that as a thing. And and for me, and I'm just speaking for me, safe place is I can come in, and if the streamer's having a real conversation, I can contribute to that without being shouted down, called names, called slurs, what have you. Or I can go live and not be called slurs. I'm not going to repeat them here because those are terrible things that we should not say. But suffice to say, I've been called just about every slur you can call a Black person, a femme-bodied person, a queer person, and it should be safe, not just for the people watching you, but for the streamer. Tomorrow is February 1st. You know what that means? Black History Month on Twitch. So, yeah.
Yeah,
And I know you and I have had long conversations about like systemic responsibility too. Because I mean, if people are creating content for your platform, I mean, this is me and my hippie ideals. I should be
Mhm.
responsible for their safety and well-being because they are contributing to my financial well-being. And some of the failures that have occurred in that respect, especially as you mentioned, you being at the intersection of all of these identities.
Yeah. I mean, and for context, for those that don't know, I've had a stalker and harasser on this platform to the point where I was interviewed by it in games media, and it got to a point where I almost quit streaming. I almost stopped doing this. And there was, despite mountains of evidence, screenshots, everything else, they never lost their channel as far as I know, because at the time the onus was on you to go to their channel to report them and then see if they were still around. It was before Twitch started following up with you. So a lot of people just don't think about the fact of, I may never know another streamer's black because they don't want to be on camera because safety reasons, or someone doesn't want to disclose that they're queer, or they don't want to use tags, just because they want to come and do whatever they want to do on the platform, be it music, gaming, cooking, what have you, and they just want to exist in peace. But a lot of people don't think about that. Then there's the other side where people feel like, well, if you're out here, you have to do something, you have to be an advocate. I'm going to tell you all now, I don't have to do anything but be black, pay my taxes, and die. That's all I got to do. There's no obligation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that gets into the entitlement aspect, and I know that you've talked about that on many occasions. The entitlement that people have towards you, not only as a person, but as we talked about earlier, as a brand.
Yeah, but I think, Mitra, were you going to say something?
I was just thinking about how the entitlement as a person of color is to a degree that others don't see, but that we experience. People think they have a right to know where I'm from, what's my mix, what's my cultural background, how long I've been in Canada, but no, really, where is home? No, but before you came to Canada, who are your people? Like, hello, you have no right to that information. If I choose to share it, great. But it's this desire to figure out all of the possible intersections that make me me. How's about you just relate to me? And let's be done with it. But that is not what happens. And that is privilege. To get people to just relate to you and be done with it, not have those questions, has to do with the privilege that those people you're relating to may have, because they're white, they're cis, they're straight, they're all of these things. And it also relates to the privilege that you, the viewer or participant or whatever, feel you may hold, that you feel you have the right to ask those questions.
Yeah.
They don't. Yeah.
They don't. And we've discussed this, and an incident that happened recently related to streaming. I was watching someone play Forspoken. They are not a person of color. They are white, and they're in the UK. And someone in their chat made the comment of, this is the lightest POC I've ever seen, as if being light precluded them from being a person of color, and specifically black in this case. And a lot of times people fall into this idea that if you don't fit X, Y, and Z molds, that you're not dark enough, you don't talk a certain way. Oh, you're educated? Yes, I have a degree. I don't know why you're surprised. Or if I mention having traveled to like Australia or Japan, what, you've been there? Yes, I know how planes work. I have a passport. And this weird idea that, well, that's not what I know because you only watch, certain news channels, shall we say, without naming names. But everyone knows what I mean. And that's what you think we are like. And I can tell you there's no greater insults to say someone is well-spoken, they're articulate, or you're not like one of those other black people. And we get 100%. That all the time.
Yeah.
And there's this idea that you're giving this great compliment, or you're just so well-spoken. I would have never realized you were black. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. My mother once got told that she was more English than the English.
I'm sorry, what?
Well, I was born in England, and that's where my parents lived. And she got told she was more English than the English. In other words, she performed English so well that
Oh.
English people were surprised. It's
Wow.
ridiculous. I know. Talk about insulting.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's also just the performative aspect of, and Raph may laugh at this. Dr. B, I have to remember that.
Me too.
It's not just us talking.
See, the funny thing is, I had the opposite. I kept calling him Dr. B while we were playing Destiny. He's like, you can call me Raph, right?
This idea that, oh wow, I started laughing and I almost forgot my point. Never mind. I've lost my own thread.
Hold on. They're so good at this, being a psychologist. More English than the English.
Yes.
You and I were talking about this. You called me by my first name. We got on a tangent with that.
Performative.
The other therapist comes in for the rescue.
There we go. Performative was the missing word. And I'm sure, Mitra, you've had this as well, where people expect you to perform anger. They expect you to perform a certain way, or, again, Forspoken. Disclosure, I know some people that worked on the game, the writers, etc. I did not know at the time that it was an all-white writers room. But I still had people messaging me asking, why was I not yelling about this on Twitter? And I was like, well, one, I'm traveling. Two, I have no contacts at Sony or Square Enix. What do you want me to do? And three, me screaming and yelling on Twitter won't unmake the game. But there's this performative aspect they want when they can just sit back and enjoy the show, and we're the ones to take the brunt of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is where, it comes in with people come to you about something that they think you feel should be outrageous. Surely you're outraged. Surely you can tell them how outraged they ought to feel. Why am I doing the work here? How's about you educate yourself and go around feeling as outraged as you want? You don't need me to tell you how to feel outraged or happy or really anything.
Yeah. That's why now I'm just like, here's my PayPal.
Well, I know I've said the word entitlement a lot, but it's a word that comes up a lot when I talk to content creators about their mental well-being. And a metaphor that actually started several years ago, Tanya, when you and I were on a panel with a couple of other folks like Kelly the Opera Geek, Critical Bard. I know Dr. Bohemian was there.
Oh no, this was at a PAX. I thought
this is the parasocial relationships panel we did that we broadcasted. Yes. And
Brian was there too. So.
Yeah, Urban Bohemian, yeah. And somebody, I think it was the Opera Geek, who said, "Your money entitles you to the art, not the artist."
Yep.
And I've taken that and I've started working with it. And an alternate metaphor, analog that I use is: you go to a restaurant. I don't care how many times you've been to that restaurant. I don't care how long you've been going to that restaurant, how much money you paid at that restaurant. Your money entitles you to food and friendly service. Yeah, nothing more. You don't get to know where your server lives. You don't get to follow them home. You don't get to date them just because you've been paying money a long time. If that sounds creepy and weird in that circumstance, it's just as creepy and weird when it's from a subscriber.
I'm over here fuming as a former restaurant manager.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this, but I've had the experience of people who are patrons or Twitch subs, or in this case now coffee. They do a monthly coffee, and they act as if it entitles them to friendship tickets. I joke about Dragon Age and the gifts you give in the first game, but it feels like that. It's like, nope. There is no monetary cost to ride this ride. No, you need to go somewhere.
Yeah, it's meant to be your appreciation for what the creator is doing. And that's it. It's meant to be, hey, I really like this content, so I'd like to subscribe and I'd like to give them a little something extra. And I just want to make sure that, I'm being a supporter so that I'm doing my bit to help them continue making content. And that is it. That's all.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break to remind our viewers of our disclaimer, and then we'll be back to talk a little more about creator well-being with Tanya. So be
Woohoo!
back.
Champions of Psychology is meant as education and entertainment. It is not a substitute for medical advice or professional counseling. Discussion of mental health topics will be primarily rooted in research and the personal experiences and self-disclosures of the hosts. While we can provide generalized education and possible mental health resources, we cannot offer any recommendations, advice, or opinions for any specific persons, cases, or situations. We provide these resources and links at our sole discretion, but have not necessarily vetted or reviewed any resource. We assume no liability for the use of the information or resources on these sites, and we encourage you to use your own best judgment.
Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to bring up next was a bullet point that we had in the notes, which was like, how do you not only survive but thrive? And like, how do you do this? I guess is the other way to say this. Like, how do you do it?
I try actually to get offline. I get out of this room that I'm in now because it's my office. It's where I spend a lot of time. I go in the room because my consoles are actually in the other room. Remember to take meds if needed. Water, because water is useful, even though I don't like drinking plain water. And I also, weather pending, I try to get out of the house. I mean, right now it's like 5 degrees in Chicago. I'm not going anywhere unless I absolutely have to, but at least like go in the living room, try to make myself do stuff. Or, Mitra and I were talking about this yesterday. Do the things that we may not necessarily like doing, but it will help clear your mind and your space, like cleaning up your apartment, something as simple as maybe dusting and mopping, where it's a minor thing, but you feel a little bit better once it's done. Mm-hmm. Also, just don't be afraid to block people.
I heard Greg Miller call using the Twitter block button the Phantom Zone like 10 years ago, and that's how I've always thought of it. I just picture their avatar spinning out into space.
So great.
Mm-hmm.
But you're touching on something we've touched on in the past, that self-care isn't always, pretty.
Yeah. Self-care is not.
Mm-hmm. It's the boring stuff, right?
Yeah, I think at one point I said something about how present Mitra really doesn't want to, but future Mitra will thank me. And,
oh yeah.
Yep.
Oh, present Dr. B. Oh.
Present Tanya should go break down a bunch of boxes when we're done with this stream. So future Tanya can take them out once I leave the house again. Wow, you had a panic look.
He did. He looked behind him.
I may have a stack of boxes hidden just behind this pillar that I've been staring at for a week.
The look totally red. How did you know?
I've been found out.
I apparently have that talent. I share the go check on the tea you left on steeping on the counter tweet, and a friend actually was like, how did you know? Because I quote you and tag them because that's how they do it. Mm-hmm. And they were like, how did you know? And I was like, happy coincidence.
Also remember to get the tea out of the microwave that you heated up 2 hours ago. Mm-hmm. That you forgot to drink.
Or Mike has the coffee cup underneath the coffee maker sometimes.
Oh no. Well, and the other thing too, and this falls under the not pretty part, is knowing just how much of, I'm not going to use the word because we're trying to be PG-13, how much of an F to give about, the people that clearly only care about you for the content, not for you as a person, because we see it all the time. And I think someone even mentioned in chat about people apologizing for taking a day off, or I'm having a hard day, because there's some days, and this is just blunt, I have my own mental health struggles. Mm-hmm. And even today it's like, do I actually bother to get out of bed until I absolutely have to, why am like mentally gearing myself up for, other than absolute necessity, aka food or other needs, why am I getting out of this bed? Why should I bother? And if you have a day like that on a day you normally stream, it is perfectly okay to go, I'm not feeling, because you know what? You're not going to have fun. The people watching are going to know you don't want to be there. You don't feel like doing it. And as a friend of mine says, you will give a bad show. They refer to streaming content creation as you are putting on a show. And in an ideal world, you are into it, you're feeling it, you're excited about whatever you're doing. And if you're having a day where I got out of bed, took a shower, and ate breakfast, that's my accomplishment, probably shouldn't be a day that you stream, unless streaming gives you that boost. Because, you know, everything works differently for some people. Some people get on camera and they get that energy. Me, I'm like, no one perceived me.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm over here like, an audience? Hello.
But I think that's what makes it easier for me to do this show is the company. And so I wonder about your experience with that, streaming alone versus streaming with people. What's worked? How's that feel?
So, funny story, and I think Zero Jester still in chat. A lot of times when I'm doing things like mini painting or creative work, I'll invite people to join me on voice, because I can talk, but I realize too, I'm one of those people, like, I may get hyper focused on a thing. And I'm like, oh yeah, people are watching me. I have not talked for like 10 minutes while I'm painting this mini. Or I'll get like really into it and people are like, we can't see what you're doing. I'm like, oh, okay. So at least if there are other people on voice, and I'm like, I'm going to focus. You all keep talking. I'll throw questions in the chat. And for the most part, I'm good with banter. Obviously during games, there's a boss fight or something, I'm just like, look, boss fight, y'all talk amongst yourselves. I will look at the chat when I'm not streaming here. And I don't do a lot of group games. Like, I should play more Destiny. I do like the game, but backseating, yay. Or things like, you know, MMOs, where I do enjoy it, but it's hard. It's sometimes hard to stream because it's very insular. Like, if you're not into that game, you're like not into Final Fantasy 14. This could be really boring to watch people do a thing that seems like they're just standing around.
Or like having to walk so far to the next quest.
Right. If you don't have a mount or whatever, you're just like, and thus, like Frodo, I am walking 20 miles. And 10 pages later in chat, I'm finally here.
And instead of a ring, it's a loaf of bread that apparently this NPC really needed.
That somehow is not moldy. It's been there. This one loaf of bread has been there however long it took you to get this quest, and it's still fine.
I hear all this and I'm like, I did not miss much by not playing Final Fantasy 14.
I play it, but I definitely do not play it on stream because just, well, people. I don't know, I enjoy it, but if I'm doing like gaming, I don't really invite people onto voice or something, unless it is a group game and like we're teaming up like Destiny or something like that, or Warhammer Darktide. Because to me, listening to a bunch of other people is actually weirdly distracting if I'm watching a stream.
That's fair.
But having people on voice, it's fine.
Fair.
Yeah, no, the way we register things can just lands differently.
Yeah.
One of the other things on this... Oh, sorry, Mitra, go ahead.
No. I wasn't saying anything of significance. I was musing.
Oh, okay.
I will muse later. Please continue.
That's fair.
But I always find you amusing.
Oh,
God, dang it. One of the bullet points that I definitely did want to hit on this section, though, was the don't expect your streaming to be your sole source of income.
Absolutely. So this is where I hurt people's feelings, and I'm not going to apologize for it. Do not make streaming your sole source of income for several reasons. One, the economy as it is tanking, and we need to accept this. After 3 years of a pandemic and people losing jobs, losing extra income or any spare money, we've all taken a hit, both in subs, in viewers, everything else. Find something else that you are good at, that you can make money at, that will help pay your bills. And because, I mean, Raf and I have about the same numbers of, if I want to make streaming my sole income, which I would never do, let's say something happened, like my Patreon dries up, I don't get any more other gigs, I would need 1,500 subscribers consistently, because Twitch takes half before you get paid to pay my rent and bills, and that's at a minimum. There wouldn't be anything extra like going to conventions or anything like that. Like, keep a roof over my head, the lights on, that's about it. And that's with Twitch getting half before we even see a penny of it. Do other things, find other sources of income, or if you've got a day job, don't quit your day job just to be a streamer. I know this sounds counter to what everyone tells you, the great dream, but having benefits is great.
Oh yeah.
Oh God. Oh my God.
I think as well, from a psychological perspective, just being resourced by having other things in your life is really helpful, particularly if like the stream didn't go well, or there's people who are just, kind of toxic in there, And so I think that feeds into the feeling that I don't have to do this. If this isn't working for me, there are alternatives. And I think that not feeling trapped around this kind of work seems to me it would be really important.
Yeah, open a Patreon, and really sit down and have a hard conversation of what am I good at? What can I offer people? What can I realistically do on a monthly basis where I'm giving people value for content? If it's, I'm going to use Zero since he's in the chat. He's a great mini painter and builder. So he could give tutorials, which he does, and he does it on stream and in other places. So for X amount, I'll give you a tutorial, or for higher amounts, I will tutor you personally, things like that. And at some point, as long as you're consistent and contribute value, people will find out and they will continue to support you. And here's the part that nobody likes to hear: it is okay to go back to a day job. Because, and this is going to sound shady, there's no good way to say it or polite way. I see too many people who quit their day jobs, who quit whatever they're doing, and then constantly have bars about making rent or paying bills. And your community should not be making sure you have the basics. I'm sorry. Now, if it's something extra, like I really love to go to TwitchCon, but it's just not in the cards, and you put a bar, that's one thing. But if you have a bar every month for your bills, your rent, your utilities, I'm sorry. At that point, you need to go get a job.
Well, you and I actually had that really hard conversation at one point in my career while I was figuring out where my career direction was going to go. And after the conversation you and I had about like me starting up my own Twitch channel or whatever, it was just the odds of me being able to, and I calculated that out, to make what I did at my first, grown up job, I would have to have 2,400 subs a month. And not many people ever achieve that. It is just not reliable. If you do, good, awesome, great. I went and got a different job and then started doing other stuff on the side, which not only gave me more flexibility, but also gave me a wider skill set upon which to draw.
Yeah. And, a lot of people who are doing well, where it seems like all they do is Twitch, they usually have a significant other. They live somewhere that's really low cost of living, or they live with like 3 other people, which I could never do. I'm too old for that. Or they do things where it's like, I need to be and this is me. I need to be independent. I need to not be at a point where if my subs drop, I could not eat that month, or I could not have electricity, because electricity, internet, and a roof over your head in order to do this job.
Yeah, and I would wonder as well if it's feeling like you're that reliant on your subs. I wonder how much that might affect your authenticity as a creator.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because then it goes from, this is something I do and enjoy, and the money I make is good, to, and because I can't say this is everyone, but I feel like at a certain point when you are so reliant, then it could turn into a symbiotic, or actually no, a parasitic relationship. Now, I don't want to say symbiotic because that's more consenting and mutual. But it could be parasitical and very parasocial, and then you are no longer the person that they start to follow, start to watch. You're someone who needs them way more than they need you, because I can always go watch somebody else and sub to someone else.
Actually, I wanted to segue that real quick, the last part of the show here, which is what do you as an audience member do in interacting with other creators?
I have to look at the notes because I know what I said yesterday. My
No,
brain just
I
went.
got it right here. Don't worry.
I'll jumpstart it because we've already talked about this. There's
Yeah.
online relationships are kind of strange because like you've got your real life friends, and I've known Tanya in person for almost 7 years, and she calls me by a very familiar name that if some rando at a convention came up and started calling me Roth, I would like, I'm sorry, who are you? This is Icky. And so there's this sense of over familiarity with a lot of people in just coming into a chat.
Yep. And I saw that Panda was in there in the chat as well. You know, and I've done this, and I do this in, you know, whenever I enter other chats or even in my own, where people come in and just call me Tanya. I mean, my name is a matter of public record. I can't help that. However, if I have never met you, if I did not know any of you as well as I do, or getting to know you as well as I do, I wouldn't run up to Treavor and call him a pet name or anything, or I wouldn't call you Ralph if this was an unfamiliar setting. Like, we'll both be at Dice. I probably wouldn't do that. I would refer to you as Dr. Boccamazzo, which might be weird, but you know what I mean.
Even Dice didn't refer to me as Dr. Boccamazzo. They referred to me as Dr. B.
Look, I have respect for my friends.
Yeah.
And I will often go, well, do I know you outside of streaming? And people are like, no, I'm new, or I came in on a raid. And I'm like, then please just call me Cypher. And some of my mods have now shifted to calling me Cypher because other people would hear them call me Tanya and think it was okay. And I'm like, absolutely not. Mandy is my exception. She gets to call me Tanya whenever she wants. Because I mean, as many clips as she's made on my channel, she can call me whatever she wants. So, but you know, they're just like, people just need to remember that just because I might know you or you might know the streamer doesn't mean other people. I mean, like that bronze girl, we've known each other now for a few years. When I pop in her chat, she still calls me Tanya, but out of respect for her rules, I don't respond with her actual name. Same with DJ Knight. We've been friends for many years. Know this man's whole life. I will never in his chat call him his actual name.
Yeah.
And this seems like a really great way to keep up those boundaries, to understand which relationship you're having in that moment, and to support that person in that professional role that they've worked hard to create. So
yeah, or you know, if you annoy me, then it's Mr. Pass.
I like that.
Oh,
I
Lord.
like that.
What?
I
just that's just about as bad as when you like, Tanya knows my middle name, and when Tanya uses my middle name, the yes ma'ams and no ma'ams just come stumble it. It bypasses all filters. Yes, ma'am.
Oh God, I gotta remember.
You know my middle name,
but I don't use it.
I don't know why. I think it would be hilarious because no one would expect that.
Oh, jeez.
So do you want to know my middle name, Treavor?
We'll talk about this after the show. I got a funny story that is similar to it. What I want to do is real quick. We did get one viewer question that I want to be sure to hit because it would be one that we couldn't really do later on in the series when we do our catch up because this one I think Tanya has some good insight on. This is from CY Morgan. Question: how do you set boundaries for entitled people who pay/donate/subscribe? Parentheses asking for me, a person with anxiety.
Set boundaries that I appreciate your support, and I think it would have to be, are you breaking a boundary of you expect more for your subscription, your one-time tip, what have you. Also remember, content creators, unless you're a 501c3, you are not getting donations, you're getting tips. Are you breaking that boundary, or has anything transpired where the streamer or creator thinks that you are potentially crossing a boundary? Just understand that I may subscribe to you at tier 1, $5 a month every month. That doesn't mean that I get to know, oh, you're going on a trip. Where are you going? Oh, you're going to TwitchCon. I want to make sure and have coffee with you because I'm a longtime sub. That doesn't guarantee that, because for many creators, going to things like PAX, TwitchCon, it is work. We're not there to be all buddy. And, you know, some people set up meetups. They want to meet their community, and that's great. But you don't get a one-way golden ticket because you subscribed for a year, 2 years, 5 years, what have you. And just being cognizant of, you don't know this person outside of their stream, even if you're in their Discord, even if you have subbed for a long time, follow them on Twitter, because a fragment of our lives is what we put out online. And that is the fragment that we choose to grant. And I don't want to say like, oh, we're on high giving you a peek, but there's so much that goes on that no one will ever know. You know, and our friend DJ is my prime example. This man does not use his real name anywhere. You know, on occasion his name has been used, but it's like businessy reasons. You know, like his partner never uses her name. You know, the teens in the house, no one knows anything about them, their names, nothing. And it's very much, don't come in asking about my personal life, because that's my line.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. Well, we are at the end of our show because we got to
Oh,
start.
we had a
here.
question in chat.
Oh, that one. We're gonna save it for later in the season when we go back and check things, because we got another show coming up and I want to give them enough time to get started. Tanya, thank you so much for joining us today. This is an absolute blast.
Welcome. I will always come back and talk with all of you. It's fun.
Yeah.
Lovely.
If people wanted to find you and what you do on the interwebs, where could they do so?
I am CypherOfTyr everywhere online, CYPHROFTYR. On my channel, I'll be doing some Forspoken later this week, and then Sunday, Rivals Waterdeep comes back for what is going to be our last season, season 15, and we're all level 20.
It's gonna be wild.
I left them in an interesting place at the end of season 14. And then that's it, just streaming on my channel. Oh, I'm doing 2 things for Black History Month next week. Well, one thing, I'm doing Women in Games, a conversation with them next Thursday, and guesting on a podcast on Monday. Follow on the tweeters for details.
Awesome. Mitra, Dr. B, same question.
Really easy at mitrajordan.com or right here at Mitra Jordan.
Dr.
However,
B
Dr. B.
He almost forgot to do the bow tie thing.
I almost forgot
just
to take
got
off
it.
the bow tie. We got a ritual here. I'm around. I'm on all the socials at the Dr. B, TheeDoctor. But more important, follow TakeThis.org on all the socials. Keep up to date on some of the stuff we're doing. We have a fantastic module on content creator burnout that is available for free on our website. Dr. Kelly Dunlap led the creation of that content module. It's amazing.
And you can follow me on Twitter at the Treavor. There is an A hiding in there. Thank you all so much for tuning in this week. Thank you to Mars and Martin for doing an awesome job in the mod channel. And yeah, thank you to Codename Entertainment and Take This for giving us an opportunity to have these discussions. And also, massive big thank you to Tanya for joining us today to talk about this, because
thank you, Tanya.
You're the perfect person to have on for this topic.
Oh, we have to do a part 2. We didn't have enough time.
There we go. Deal. We're setting it down. So be sure to follow her on Twitter and Twitch and all of that fun stuff. But that is going to do it for this week's episode of Champions of Psychology. So until next week, take care of yourself.
Later.
Champions of Psychology is meant as education and entertainment. It is not a substitute for medical advice or professional counseling. Discussion of mental health topics will be primarily rooted in research and the personal experiences and self-disclosures of the hosts. While we can provide generalized education and possible mental health resources, we cannot offer any recommendations, advice, or opinions for any specific persons, cases, or situations. We provide these resources and links at our sole discretion, but have not necessarily vetted or reviewed any resource. We assume no liability for the use of the information or resources on these sites, and we encourage you to use your own best judgment.